Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 2 of Nomifactory Let's Play. I just want to take a second and say thank you to everybody that watched episode 1. I did not expect it to do so well. It exceeded my expectations. So it warms my heart to see how many people actually enjoyed the videos. If you guys enjoy them, I'll try keep them coming. For today's episode, we're actually going to take things a little bit slower. And I'm going to try and explain a bit more what I'm actually doing when we're working with machines, how the power operates during the crafting, so that you guys can follow along the process a little bit better. These first episodes are really like the pilot of the series and me figuring out how to record it, how to edit it so that we can find the specific recipe and style that works well. Last episode, our main focus was to get the EBF, short for the electric blast furnace. And believe it or not, but since firing this thing up, we still don't have enough power. So today's episode, we're going to be focusing on a better power source, more automatable, more reliable instead of wood, because man, chopping down all these trees is a nightmare. So today's episode's focus is going to be upgrading our power, gathering some resources, and once we have the new power set up, we're going to actually move our EBF to its own grid. Another issue that we are facing with the power currently, each cable is limited to a certain amount of amps that can run through that cable. An 8x thin cable can use a maximum of 8 amps. Now, most LV machines only pull 1 amp at a time. So if we are providing 8 amps into our cable, we can basically have 8 machines running at the same time that you require 1 amp. The problem comes in when we are running our blast furnace, because it's got 2 LV energy hatches. And the LV energy hatch can accept 2 amps. So when the blast furnace is on, which we want to practically have on the whole time, it uses 4 out of our 8 available amps, meaning we can only run 4 other machines at the same time. Our goal is going to be to separate the power network of our blast furnace from our other machines. So we are effectively going to generate power on 2 different systems. You are looking at our next source of power gen, which is going to be sugarcane. We can grow this and automatically harvest it and burn this just like we would do wood or charcoal. It's going to be something that we can get tons of and collect it easily and pump it into our dynamos. We're going to need to get some resources. So in order to make that a little bit easier, I decided to upgrade our backpacks. We actually got 2 tiers higher. Our previous hammer died, so we had to enchant the last hammer we had, and this time around we got XP Boost 3 and Unbreaking 3. Now, Unbreaking 3 is fantastic. I don't really think the XP Boost 3 is going to do much for us. Now that we've got everything we need, let's head to mining. So we've been mining and focusing mostly on iron and copper for these sessions. Took me about an hour to 2 hours of footage you guys just saw. This is the fruit of all our mining. We got tons of iron, tons of copper, relative amount of tin and some gold with some kyanite dust. We're probably going to be processing most of these ingots down into plates and wires and rods. Last episode we built 8 steam dynamos. Currently they are receiving water, a fuel source, and they are producing 40 RF per tick. There's a few augments we can actually install in these. The turbine conversion and the boiler conversion. The boiler conversion converts an applicable dynamo into a steam boiler. We want to combine these as groups of 3. 1 boiler dynamo and 2 turbine dynamos, together producing 320 RF instead of our current 120. Before we get busy with crafting, if there's one thing I've learned in Nomifactory, is to always have your machines processing. So our main use for the EBF right now is getting aluminum. It's used in most of our MV machine recipes, so we're going to need tons of that. And our first way of producing aluminum is by electrolyzing clay dust. So I spent about 40 minutes gathering clay in the surrounding rivers, but I quickly realized there was a better way. And it was all around us all this time. All these buildings are actually made from terracotta. And we can throw this terracotta into our macerators, turning it into tons of clay dust. And we now have all the aluminum dust needed to run our EBF for hours. In order for you guys to understand our new power setup, we're going to be looking at a block called SNAD. This block is amazing. When provided with some redstone pulses, it triggers a growth cycle for whatever is growing on the block. By pulsing a signal really quickly, we can grow tons of sugarcane in seconds. So off to the desert we went to collect some sand. We're gonna place 5 observers at the top, a row of pistons which will break the sugarcane. Our snad goes down to grow. We still need a water source nearby though. Now we can plant our sugarcanes, and I'm connecting up redstone energy conduits on the back. These are basically redstone cables which we can use to send signals through. We want to get an input from the observer and send an output to the piston. Now, as soon as the observer sees the sugarcane grow, it will send a signal to our piston and harvest. Let's configure the rest of the cables. It looks like they're all working. Great. I'm setting up a cage to catch all our sugarcane. Remember, we need to apply a redstone pulse into our snad. Right-clicking the conduits with our wrench forces a connection to the sand. Configure the output on green signal. Alright, I had to play around with this a little bit, but basically we have to put the redstone timer at our input. So we can click configure, and it's going to pulse every 5 ticks at this moment as soon as it does not receive redstone signal. So when we turn the lever off, we can clearly see that this is now pulsing. Look at the speed that sugarcane grows. That is ridiculous. What the heck? Alright, let's turn this thing off. Our next issue to solve is how to pick up all this sugarcane. The first solution for this front row is pretty easy. We can just put hoppers down here. As items fall into the water, they will automatically be hoppered. But what do we do with the sugarcane that falls on the sand? Well, that's where the minecart hopper comes through. This can actually pick up items through one block. So if I make sure that there's a track underneath this snad, we can actually pick up blocks through that. Ignore my shoddy little staircase here off on the side. I've got a line of hoppers here on the bottom. On top of that, we're going to be placing our rails. So this is where our minecart's going to be running to and fro. So we need to make sure that has redstone all the time to make sure the cart never stops running. We'll use some redstone conduit. And it's going to be output. We'll keep the signal on green, that's fine. It's going to be output on green, and then we just got to make sure these always receive a redstone signal. And we can do that by just doing something quick and dirty like that, and we're going to output on green. On the output, we need to make sure that it's set to strong signal, so it actually translates into the block above. So if we pop down our minecart, that'll start running forwards and backwards. Next up, layer of snad. So you'll notice when I pop a block down on the snad, as the cart runs over, it'll automatically pick up the blocks on top of it. So let me quickly replant the sugarcane. Next up, we need to make sure that we collect the items. Make sure that these hoppers all feed into each other this way. So we just need 2 chests here at the end. Alright, believe it or not, I was not recording. I broke this block over here and our minecart went down into the void. So I quickly crafted us another one. I went ahead and made one more hopper to transfer the items from this small storage crate to this one over here. That way we only have to pull out of one chest. I'm going to actually just place our storage drawer over here. Now, in order to get the items into our drawer, we're going to need to use some of our small potent pipe. We're going to connect it up to our chest on the side, up to our drawer at the top, and make sure we have a connection here. These items are not going to be extracted yet. We need to use the LV conveyor module, and we can put that on our pipe here. In order to configure that, we actually need a specific tool, the screwdriver. So we can just hit right click on there. So we want to import into this pipe, and now, as you can see in the top left corner, we're actually extracting sugarcane. Alright, perfect. So we've got one more step to do in order to make sure that everything doesn't overflow and fill up more than we need. Okay, so it's been a hot minute. This is not the most beautiful looking solution, but I'll explain how it works. So initially we had a drawer over here, but I tried to read the input from the drawer, how many resources were in there, but it seems like the redstone sensor filter does not want to read from the basic drawer. So instead I've put down a chest, and then inside our conduit connector we've placed a redstone sensor filter. This basically works like a comparator. So it's checking how full the chest is and emitting a redstone signal according to that. So if there's 0 items in the chest, it'll emit a redstone signal of 0. If the chest is full, it'll emit a signal of 15. So as that runs along this redstone line, the redstone signal becomes less until it hits this redstone signal over here. As soon as the redstone conduit over here receives a signal, it turns off our timer card in here, meaning that the SNAD is no longer being pulsed and our sugarcane is growing at its normal slow pace. So what this means is if I take some sugarcane out, it starts growing again. Alright, now that we've got our sugarcane set up, we're gonna need to make one more steam dynamo. In order to change our dynamos into the boiler and the turbine, we're gonna need 3 boiler conversions. For that we need some fused quartz, which is pretty easy to make. We're gonna have to make a mold block. We can throw this in the alloy smelter. So we put the mold block in there with some nether quartz. We're only gonna need 3 of these. We're gonna need 3 boiler conversions, 6 turbine conversions. Time to break down our old setup. Okay, the LV hatches are going down. In order to make sure that our output's at the top, click one of the small squares to move this face to the opposite side. Steam dynamos. These are going to be generating power, so they're going to be turbine conversions. Now in order for these turbines to run, they're going to need steam. These dynamos are going to be boilers. Oh wow, look at the texture, it actually changes. So these need water and a fuel source. And in order to extract from this chest, we're going to need a conveyor belt again. Configure that with the screwdriver. And these are filling up with sugarcane, baby. We're currently producing 120, 130 RF per engine. That's crazy. Now that we have way more power to generate, it's time to move our EBF and set up its own set of boilers. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know how today's episode went. I feel like I can allow a little more breathing room in between sections. I'm also planning to do a live stream this coming Saturday. So keep your eyes peeled or join our Discord down below in the description. I'm looking forward to catching up with you guys in the comments. Please feel free to share some ideas and possible improvements. I know today's episode was a little bit on the short end. I recorded most of the footage and then started the editing process only afterwards. It might be better to edit each day after recording so we can see where we stand. So I think I'm going to be doing that from now on. I still have a bunch of footage to go through that didn't actually make it into today's episode. But that's enough rambling for me. Until next time, happy Gregging.